Hey, what's up, folks? Welcome back to On Texas Football, and welcome back to another edition of Football Theory. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. Pleased to be joined by my esteemed colleague and very good friend, Jeff Howe. We'll get into a little breakdown of the Texas Vanderbilt game. We know we've already previewed it here on this channel, but we'll do it football theory style. And there's been a lot of talk about the Texas offense, so we want to pay attention to the Texas defense going up against that Vanderbilt offense. Specifically, we're going to look at that Texas defensive front versus that Vandy O-line. That may be where the advantage lies for Texas. We'll discuss it here in a second, but before we do, let's thank our sponsor, one of our sponsors for Football Theory, our good friends over at SeatGeek. That's right, folks. If you need tickets to any of the major sporting events, football, basketball, whatever, SeatGeek, they are the place for you. SeatGeek has your back, folks. Each ticket is rated on the scale of 1 to 10, so you know you're getting a great deal. So you can look for the green dots. Green, of course, means good, means you should go. Red means bad. Plus, every ticket is backed by their buyer guarantee. Of course, great deal for OTF fans. Right now, if you use the code OTF10, that's OTF10, you'll get 10% off your next set of tickets at SeatGeek. That's 10% off any tickets by using that promo code OTF10. So make sure you click the link in the description to download the app and have the code automatically added to your account so you can use it later. That's OTF10. And thank you very much to our friends over at SeatGeek. All right, Jeff, let's dive into it. Something I know you want to dive into, and you love trench play. You love line play. And this is going to be a really interesting game because Vanderbilt, one of the better running teams in the country. You think that this Texas defensive front and the O-line for Vanderbilt, this could be one of the key matchups to decide this game?
I think it's the matchup, Rod, that's going to decide this game. And Vanderbilt's offensive line is really unique because Tim Beck, their offensive coordinator, does a really good job of play calling. He was with Diego Pavia in New Mexico State, and when Clark Lee made staff changes a couple of years ago, he kind of brought a quarterback and an offensive coordinator with him. But the other big change he made, he brought in Chris Klenakis as his offensive line coach, and Chris Klenakis was back with Chris Alt at Nevada, where they kind of, I don't know, Rod, if you want to say Chris Alt kind of is the father of kind of the modern run game in football, but he's kind of the godfather of the modern run game in football with the pistol and the different things they were doing in Nevada. When you talk to other coaches, like Andy Reid talks a lot about Chris Alt and how much Chris Alt kind of changed his views on the run game and what the Chiefs have done for years. And one thing Chris Klenakis has done that's really interesting is an old school approach. They don't have like a traditional left tackle, left guard, right tackle. They have a quick side of their offensive line, and they have a strong side of their offensive line. They will actually flip their guards and tackles from right side to left side, depending on the strength. Now, it's taken them a while to get to this point, but when you've got some veterans in there, guys that have gotten to hone their craft, guys that have played a lot, what you've got, Rod, is you might have not necessarily just a bunch of NFL guys all over the field. You may have the best and most complete offensive line in the entire country. When you look at Vanderbilt, they lead the SEC right now in line yards per carry. Basically, the offensive line, when you look at this analytic, this metric that is line yards per carry, basically the offensive line should be getting you, at best, if your offensive line can get your running back the first 3 yards, that means they're doing a great job.
Yeah.
Vanderbilt right now is averaging almost a little over 3.4 line yards per carry.
Wow.
So they are the very best in the SEC at basically doing their job for the running backs. They got Cedric Alexander. They got some good backs, but the Vanderbilt offensive line is the best run blocking offensive line in the SEC, whether you just look at the eye test or you look at the metrics. The other thing that stands out about Vanderbilt, Rod, tied for the SEC lead in fewest sacks allowed, allowing less than a sack a game. They've only allowed 7 sacks all year. And you look at TFLs allowed, only Texas A&M has allowed fewer. Vanderbilt 3.25 TFLs per game. Their opponents this year, Rod, only 26 tackles for loss. So this Vanderbilt offensive line, on their own, they don't give up a ton of negative plays. And when you've got a quarterback like Diego Pavia who can extend the play and use his legs and freelance, that's also going to help those numbers. So really what Vanderbilt has, they've got the perfect combination of a scheme that works, an offensive line that's working that scheme for a while, it understands what's asked of them, and they've got a quarterback that, as we said, when you face a quarterback like this, you can have the right front, you can have the right coverage, you can have the right personnel in. Yeah. If that quarterback's athletic enough, and Pavia did this to Texas a couple of times last year, he can make you wrong, and Diego Pavia will have times. I think everybody needs to wrap their head around this, Rod. He will have plays in this game where he makes PK wrong. The call will be right. his playmaking ability will make you wrong. But really, we talked a lot about Pavia, but it really starts with that offensive line. They've got that unique look, but I really like this offensive line, Rod.
Yeah, and the scheme complements the O-line really well. It's I think it's might be the most creative and exotic run game in the SEC. They come with a lot of different looks, multi-tight end packages, multi-back sets. Of course, they got the +1 in the running game with Diego Pavia. So I agree with you. I think that's why the key is to stop the running game, which is a Herculean task against them, plus with Diego Pavia, and then almost force them out of their comfort zone. And you want to force them into a team that wants to throw the football, because that's where the weakness of the O-line really lies. You talked about run blocking. They're awesome. They're pretty good there. But for Pro Football Focus has them with the 5th worst team pass blocking grade in the Power 4. So pass blocking wise, I know they haven't given a lot of sacks, but a lot of that is Pavia. Pavia is so well acquainted and intimate with this system. He knows all the solutions. He knows all the basically all the different fail safes that exist within the offense, because he's in his offense for like 4 years now. So, and his obviously escapability and sack avoidance. So if you can slow down the running game, which I said that's a tall task, getting back to your original point, you can potentially make it. They've allowed, as I said, they haven't allowed a lot of sacks. You're ready to get to them, but that's because Pavia works his magic. Now, that's why I think ultimately this game comes down to, can you make them less efficient? I got a stat for you that kind of goes to what you've talked about this O-line and how this O-line keeps them on schedule. It keeps them on schedule and they stay on schedule. And that's why they're a top 10 third down team, and they're top 10 in like touchdown percentage in the red zone. There are 47 FBS teams that have run fewer than 500 offensive plays this season. And there are 43 FBS teams that have scored 250 plus points this season. 10 of them have done both. Vanderbilt's one of them 10 that have done both. Extremely efficient. You got to stop. You got to win on early downs. I mean, winning on first down and winning on second down, and you got to force them into basically predictable passing situations. Pavia's still doing good in that situation, and you got to defend a scramble drill, but at least it shrinks the playbook for them, and he is a much more effective runner and a scrambler and a +1 in the design run game than he is a pocket passing quarterback.
What Vanderbilt kind of reminds me of, the style they thrive on. It really, and I know I reference this guy a lot saying, hey, it's going to look like this kind of game, because I respect the hell out of what he did. And I think if you look at the history of college football, I think Bill Snyder probably did the best job of any single job of any coach. I mean, K-State was about to, were they going to drop down? Were they going to drop football altogether before they hired Bill Snyder? And he basically created that program out of nothing at K-State. But when I look at Vanderbilt, Rod, I think about like Bill Snyder's best K-State teams when they had a guy like an L. Roberson or a Colin Klein who could make things happen. Like wasn't an NFL guy, but just a guy that on kind of grit and savvy and toughness and could make plays. And they wanted to shorten the game. And Rod, you played against Bill Snyder, and you get in the games and look up like, man, we only had the ball for like 10 minutes, and there's like 12 minutes of game time left. Like we got to get going. That suffocating, Python-like nature that Bill Snyder used to beat you with, that's kind of how Clark Lee wants to win games. And, you look at it's interesting you bring up the PFF numbers and look at, Vanderbilt doesn't rank as high in terms of where you think of pass blocking efficiency and things like that. You got to remember, though, Pro Football Focus, I don't know their exact formula, but it weights more true pass sets. And when you're in a true pass set as an offensive lineman, you're in predictable passing downs. They do a really good job of staying out of predictable passing downs because they will hammer the run game. We're not talking about an offense, Rod, that, we want to try to run the football. No, they will. I mean, they will live and die by their ability to run the football. I mean, they will try everything possible to get the run going. I want to throw some more numbers at you. This just shows, again, you mentioned the efficiency, just how efficient they are. Vanderbilt right now tied for 5th in the SEC with Ole Miss and Tennessee in runs from scrimmage of 10+ yards. Only Arkansas, Missouri, Mississippi State, and A&M have more. When you look at 30+ yard runs, only 3 offenses in the SEC have double-digit runs from scrimmage this year of 30 or more yards. Missouri, Arkansas, and Vanderbilt. That's it in the SEC. So they have no problem taking like those, up to 10-yard runs, the 10 to 20 yarders, and then boom, with a guy like Cedric Alexander and with Pavi's ability to scramble, they can also hit the long ball in the run game. So it is a run-based offense, but they're so clean, they're so disciplined, They're so efficient. They execute really well. This is a game, Rod, where third down efficiency for the Texas defense. I talked about it last week because you didn't want to get caught in tempo. Mm-hmm. This is a week where if you don't get off the field on third down when you have a chance to, those 3rd and 7 pluses, if you let them convert, you're basically hamstringing your offense. You're basically okay, that's a possession we're not going to get because of their ability to run the football and bleed the clock.
Yeah, and they're converting more than 50% of their 4th down. So if you combine 3rd and 4th down, they're still like one of the top 10 best teams converting and staying on the field, to your point. And one thing that also kind of adds to that I think is a great complementary element in this offense to what you're talking about, how they almost force the defensive front to go all in and stack the box and stop the run. You have to. And then they got one of the best tight ends in the country, one of the best kind of combination of tight ends too, that if you want to go, say you're going 40 personnel to match these multi-tight end sets, these multi-back sets, or the fact they're just committed to the run game, then they go, okay, great. You got your 40 personnel, you got 3 or 4 linebackers on the field. Let's see how many of them can cover this, a world-class tight end that we got in Eli Stowers. And that's how they get you. They really force you into picking your poison. Are you going to keep your sub packages on the field versus these power sets they're going to present? Because if you do, they're like, oh, great, this is perfect. We'll run against your lighter personnel. Yeah. But if you want to go heavy personnel to match their heavy, they have no problem with that too, because they'll light you up with Eli Stowers and the tight ends. And Pavia's gotten much better at a quick game and some of the other kind of I would say more rudimentary passing concepts that they throw out there. And they'll just chunk the deep ball. If you stack the box and you got one-on-ones on the outside, they'll decide, you know what, we're going to just take our shots on the outside. And Pavia's not bad there. It's completing probably like 32% of those deep balls. So they have an answer for however the defense wants to defend them. They seem to have answers, and a lot of it's built on Pavia. And like you said, even when they run out of answers, Pavia's off schedule, off script, second reaction ability is among the best in the country, if not the best in the country.
Yeah. If you think about Vanderbilt, we talk about the Texas offense is like the Texas offense is like bizarro Vanderbilt, right? The Texas offense is not efficient, but what do you have when push comes to shove in crunch time? What have you been getting by on? It's Arch's ability to extend the play. And Arch's ability to use his legs and get outside the pocket and make things happen and give his receivers a little extra time and give the offensive line margin for error. Vanderbilt has that with Pavia, but they're also really efficient. So I really like watching this offense work. And I'll tell you right at 3 levels of the defense, though, why I actually like this matchup for Texas. Go back and look at the end of the Mississippi State game. Texas was still able to put, even in a game where you're facing a lot of snaps, you're still able to put relatively fresh pass rushers on the field. I mean, you faced 86 snaps in back-to-back weeks. But go back and look at that drive in overtime. Alex January's BGO, Lance Jackson's BGO. Like, you're able to rotate these guys into the game, so that way in crunch time, you can go with the hot hand and you don't have guys that are just hanging and dragging and they're fatigued and they're tired. So defensive line depth, 1 for Texas. 2, the chance you can get Michael Taft back because he has been at practice, but also – what I like about this game is Jelani McDonald played maybe his best game of the year last year against Vanderbilt. So you've got kind of a chess piece with Jelani McDonald. And then Rod, I've been hesitant to bring this up because I haven't wanted to face this. But regardless of what happens with the postseason, we're probably looking at the last 4 regular season games Anthony Hill's going to play in the Texas uniform.
Oh, no question.
And in a panic situation, when you had to have it, what did PK do last week? Man, he weaponized Anthony Hill. Everybody on the channel is probably tired of hearing me say it, but I live by the Will Muschamp theory. You don't train a thoroughbred to run backwards. I want that guy attacking the line of scrimmage. And he unleashed Anthony Hill and let him attack the line of scrimmage. And Anthony Hill, Rod, in a lot of ways, took that game over late in the 4th quarter and in overtime with his presence as a pass rusher. He and Jelani McDonald can be your 2 equalizers for Diego Pavia. So I want to see what PK does in terms of how he uses those guys as spies, his blitz packages. This is a game where you can play, maybe not playing heavier personnel because you've got the defensive front. You've got the front line to be able to handle Vanderbilt's offensive line, at least to match up with them. What you do at the 2nd and 3rd levels in terms of your blitz packages, this could be a game where we see PK throw all kinds of different bodies toward the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. And by the way, Anthony Hill right now, 25% pressure rate. So he's got the highest pressure rate on the team. He's only got 68 pass rush opportunities. So I'm with you.
Need that number to go up.
presence. But I will say, looking at some of the games that Vanderbilt's played, honestly, Missouri might have had the best game plan for him, and he had arguably his worst game of the season versus Missouri. That's how you know Vanderbilt's a good team. They're still able to win, even though Pavia doesn't have a good game. He had his, if you look at him as a passer, fewest passing yards of the season. First game without a passing touchdown. He threw an interception. Lowest completion percentage of the season. Actually, the first time he was below 60%. Fewest completions on the season. He actually tied for the fewest rushes of the season, fewest design rushes of the season. He only had 3 scrambles in that game. They really did a great job of neutralizing Pavia. And what they did was they decided they were not going to blitz him. He faced his lowest blitz rate of the year. Only 12% blitz rate. Only blitzed him on 3 dropbacks because what they did, because they have 2 really good defensive ends. You know those guys. Zion Young is he's a stud too, and Damon Wilson. Those guys are studs. They I think they're like both top 20. In the country in pressures right now. So they got 2 good edge guys, and they got a hell of a stud linebacker in Trotter too. Yep. So they got the pieces that could contain Pavia. You can kind of keep them in the pocket, corral them in the pocket. You ain't going to do it on every play. Like you said, sometimes Pavia just going to make you wrong no matter what. But you can corral them in the pocket for the most part, and then you have at least a linebacker that you trust that can spy them and that can also be your kind of, C gap to C gap linebacker against the run. He's actually one of the top 5 best linebackers graded out against the run. Texas has those kind of pieces. You got an excellent edge play with Colin Simmons and with Lance Jackson and with Trey Moore and with Ethan Burke and him having the best game we've seen Ethan Burke play on the 40 acres, right? Like you're Brad Spence can throw him in there. You're loaded at edge. So you got enough edges to be able to corral him. And you got really good linebacker play. You got Anthony Hill. You got Leon Galafau. You got Tay Anthony Smith. So some of the same pieces that Missouri had to be able to neutralize Pavia and basically have him perform at the worst level we've seen him and have his worst game of the season. Texas can replicate that. And I think it kind of goes to what PK's beliefs are. PK doesn't like to blitz. And like I said, you can beat these old linemen one-on-one in pass protection, especially with your defensive front. But you got to be able to stop the run early on. That's the key. So one of the things that you may see, PK, if he's trying to replicate what Missouri did, like I said, that's his worst game of the season. They didn't blitz at all. They decided to devote all their extra resources to spies, to have multiple spies. They had multiple spies on passing downs. So I think Texas probably could do that too, whether it's a Colin Simmons or a Trey Moore, Anthony Hill, Jelani McDonald. Last year they had access to the big nickel because they had Michael Taft healthy. If they have that again, they can go with the big nickel package. Jelani McDonald could be the spy. So you can diversify your spy package with them. But I don't know. I'm thinking about their Missouri game plan. They said to hell with blitz and Pavia. All extra resources go to pass coverage and to defend the scramble drill and for spies. That's where their extra guys went. They didn't waste them on blitzing. I say waste them, but they decided it wasn't the way to maximize their personnel. Just a food for thought.
I want to get your thought as we close this out, Rod. I've maintained all week. If Texas wins the toss, if I'm Sark, regardless who the quarterback is, I'm real tempted to take the ball first because to me, the advantage of maybe getting an early lead and the quicker I can hand this game over to my pass rush, on the chances I have to get the game where Diego Pavia has to drop back and throw the football, to me, that reward is worth the risk of maybe you go 3 and out and maybe you don't get the opportunity for the 2-for-1 at the end of the half and at the start of the second half. If I'm Sark, I just want your thoughts on that. I think he should take the ball first and try as hard as you can to get an early lead.
Yep, I agree with you 100%. And try to force Vanderbilt out of their comfort zone, and that's part of it. If you force them to play from a desperation, all right, with a deficit, I think you can kind of infuse some desperation in that group, and then I think you can amplify it. I think, like I said, PK. If I'm PK, I'm stacking the box on early down. I want you to know I'm stacking the box. I'm gonna put 8 in that box on early downs. Matter of fact, that's what Missouri did to them, and it puts a lot of pressure on your corners. You got to make sure you win because every now and then, because you're going to win. If you put 8 in the box, Texas will win against them and force them into second long and third long. But the adjustment by Vanderbilt and Pavia, they just started throwing it on first down a little bit later in that game against Missouri and had some success. So I think if I'm PK, I probably would load the box and present them with a loaded box and say, you got one-on-ones on the outside if you want it. And I think Texas their corner should be able to win one-on-ones on the outside with these guys. That'll be something to watch too. And then, of course, who is covering Eli Stars. You have given up 11. You have given up 9 first downs and 2 touchdowns to tight ends the last 2 weeks.
That may be, you think Jelani McDonald, this may be a Ty Anthony Smith game where Ty Anthony Smith is over the tight end a lot.
I like that. Yeah, LaFau is probably your worst coverage linebacker. So maybe in this game, you're very strategic about when you play LaFau with downs. I like that, Jeff.
Instead of us trade more for Ty Anthony Smith swap, maybe your swap this week is trade more for Leonga LaFau. Because honestly, and this is the advantage PK has when you got a guy like Anthony Hill that you can move around. This may be a game, Rod, where you just put Anthony Hill in the middle of the field and just say, wherever Diego Pavia goes with the football, you follow him.
You did that with Jalen Milroe. Remember his his freshman year they did that? I think it was. And they were just like,
as a freshman in Tuscaloosa, you trusted him to do that. Yes.
Go chase that dude around. One of the best athletes in college football. I'm with you on that. Honestly, that was simplified. That's not a bad idea at all. Just say that's your guy all game long, and then everybody else will fill in the blanks.
And look, I know taking the ball first, regardless whether it's Matthew Caldwell at quarterback or Arch at quarterback. Trust me, I understand it is a complete crapshoot. It is a roll of the dice. But again, if I'm Sark and PK, my goal should be if I can get this game to where we can turn it over to the pass rush, that's advantage us all day. I think that's the mindset they got to have the rest of the way.
I agree. I actually like that. I support your theory there, Jeff. All right. Speaking of supporting theories here on Football Theory, our friends over at Advanced Pain Care, they also support Football Theory, and with a message from 2 legendary lifetime Longhorns.
Pros know the pain stops here.
Physical therapy helps me as an athlete then and now. And do I still need therapy? Yes. And Advanced Pain Care helps with that.
Injuries will stack up. They'll add up. You can't let those injuries get you down, and Advanced Pain Care has been very helpful for me.
We can help with whatever's got you down, from nerve damage to our spinal cord stimulator. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. Same-day appointments available.
Advanced Pain Care. The pain stops here.
All right. Thank you, VY, Colt McCoy, and Advanced Pain Care. Also, thank you to our other sponsor. Thank you to our friends over at SeatGeek as well. Remember, use that code OTF10. Thank you, Jeff. Great stuff as always. Appreciate all of the knowledge and the expertise. I'm a smarter football theorist because of you. Thanks to Matthew behind the scenes, twisting and tweaking dials. Nobody's better. That's why he's the real MVP. And thanks to each and every one of you for watching and for listening. Until next time, for Jeff and for Matthew, I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. Hook 'em horns.
Hook 'em.